Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast made by fans like you, for fans like you. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. I am your host, Joe Kuzma, and folks, I know you're anticipating what is Joe going to say today. Steelers dropped their fourth straight to the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday with a final 35-30 in a game that saw 7 different lead changes. If you want a summary right now, off the top of my head, the Pittsburgh Steelers not playing their best football, particularly on defense, lost to a very good Dallas Cowboys team, particularly in offense. And I had said heading into this game, when I did the preview show just a few days ago, that this would be offense versus offense, and the Steelers defense would have to stand up. They would have to, and they did not, simply put. So when you look at this game, a lot of people are thinking the sky is falling. A lot of the same sentiments about coaching, this, that, the other thing. There were opportunities lost, but let me tell you, it seems like every other game, maybe the defense shows up against Baltimore, and Baltimore is not a quality football team. Just them being in the lead of this division makes me sick to my stomach. The defense did all right, though, against them. I will say that. But that was not a good offense. You see the one thing that was really brought to my attention by David Todd and Charlie Batch in the post-game show that just came to my mind, and I'm going to put it out there real quick, was most defenses in the NFL these days are built to stop the pass, and they struggle against the run. And I don't know if that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers are, because they've struggled against the pass. A lot of people would laugh, hey, Joe, blah, 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 you know, they suck against the pass. I thought they had done better against the pass, despite Artie Burns being left on an island yesterday against Dez Bryant. It's Dez Bryant. Yes, it's a rookie quarterback, but have you seen a rookie quarterback this good since, I don't know, maybe Ben? Maybe somebody like Tom Brady? This Dak Prescott kid, impressed. He does what it takes to win, minimizes any chance of putting the Cowboys in a position to lose. And that's pretty much where the most important thing in this game is that the Cowboys didn't make too many mistakes. You look at Ezekiel Elliott, and he was a beast in this game. I thought the Steelers could hold him under 125 yards rushing, and I was correct. Sorry, I need some water. I've got such a sore throat from screaming and yelling at Heinz Field. Let me tell you how disappointed I am about that. It's not so much losing at home. The Steelers are going to lose games. Those sorts of things are going to happen. I mean, when you predict at the beginning of the season, what are they going to go? 12-4, 11-5, 10-6. Well, here we are, 4-5. And Tomlin has finished these last 3 seasons 6-2. You got to believe he could turn the ship around. You got to look at the schedule ahead and think, you got the Cleveland Browns twice, even though a lot of people are scared because it is a road game against an awful team coming up on Sunday. But still, give the benefit of the doubt. You have the Browns twice. You've owned the Cincinnati Bengals. You have some payback maybe at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Those are 4 games in your division that you could win and go 5-1 in the division alone. So it's 4 of the next games coming up. You got the Colts on a short week on the road. You've also got the New York Giants. They're not necessarily the most scariest team. There's no run game there like the Dallas Cowboys had. So I'm not going to say the sky is falling because I think the stronger part of the Steelers' schedule is behind them. I know Baltimore's owned us, but there's some payback there. And like I said, not a quality team. That could be for all the marbles at the end of this season. But getting back to the Dallas Cowboys game here. Ezekiel Elliott, 3 TDs, 2 big plays. That just totally sucks. And I didn't get to see some of this, any film. I didn't get to rewatch this game with the 7 lead changes, and it just went on forever. Even in the stadium, I think I got home like almost close to 10 o'clock last night. And that's just straight leaving the tailgate lots and everything else. And for those sitting at home that didn't realize, that is the largest crowd in Heinz Field history. It was over 67,000 people there. And a lot of them were Cowboys fans, and that was what I was getting at about being disappointed losing at home, is actually hearing crowd noise, actual crowd noise from an opposing team's fan base. And I'm very disappointed in Steelers Nation. I know these tickets, along with the Green Bay and Tennessee Titans game yesterday that was played in Tennessee, speaking of which, you want to talk about skies falling. You got another coach that's a very winning coach in Mike McCarthy, and you got a Green Bay Packers team that went on the road and got blown out, and they're also 4-5 with Aaron Rodgers. So when everyone makes these silly tweets about bad coaches and wasting Ben Roethlisberger's career like the Miami Dolphins did with Dan Marino towards the end of his career, hogwash. They're all trying to do the best job that they can. They're suffering injuries down there in Green Bay too. But anyways, these tickets for both of these games, they were both over $600 a piece on average for both of those games, and that's only, I believe, the second time that's ever happened. And I did have a source that I retweeted the other day, and I'm sorry, I apologize to whom sent it. It was one of these ticket brokers or ticket type exchange companies. And anyway, people, it's just like the World Series when I saw Cubs fans in Cleveland. I'm like, what's going on? And what's happening is everyone's, Charlie Batch said this too, he's like, people are thinking Christmas is around the corner. I could sell my ticket that maybe has a face value of $100 or so, and I could sell it for $450. It was just insane because Cowboys fans were willing to pay it, and it's a steep price, but you know what? We sold out our team. We sold out our team. That's the thing that hurt the most, really deep in my heart. It sucks because Ben Roethlisberger gets the ball in his hands with under a minute left, and you're like, Ben can do this. Under 2 minutes, I'm sorry. And he does. Incredible. Speaking of Dan Marino, the fake spike play. Just, we were all thinking that coming up, don't spike the ball, and he didn't, and the place went ballistic. But for the Steelers defense to give that up, it's unfortunate that the Cowboys had all three of their timeouts. And even more unfortunate is the way that it unfolded at the end with a touchdown. That is just the dagger. That's the nail in the coffin. I would have been much more secure in if they had to hold Dan Bailey to a very long field goal that he would have had to make. It's very difficult to kick in Heinz Field. We've seen Chris Boswell attempt some long kicks this year and not be successful. And it didn't unfold that way. Instead, Jason Witten, who stopped in the middle of the field, and they would have had to burn a timeout. They didn't have to burn a timeout whatsoever because you commit a face mask penalty and then give them an extra 15 yards. Just march them straight down the field. And I was thinking already, this is the way this is going to go. And it didn't necessarily start that way. Prescott, incomplete pass to start that drive. I'm not going to dwell on it. Like I said, the Cowboys are a good team. Sucks nobody could get on Ezekiel Elliott untouched those last two touchdowns. A lot of people thinking that next to last one may have been on purpose, leave some time on the clock. And I think that was the best case scenario for the Steelers. Could have been intentional. It's definitely a tactic that's used. And you saw what happened. Ben was able to lead this team. The offense, damn near flawless. I mean, I predicted successfully that Le'Veon Bell would find the end zone more than once. Ladarius Green wasn't a liability. He wasn't as big an impact as I felt, but he wasn't on the field as much either. A lot of people are going to complain about the two-point conversion stuff. I'm okay with it. That is not the reason they lost the game. Here, the very first two-point conversion, they have their analytics and statistics and everything else. The coaching staff knows what they need to do to put this Dallas Cowboys team away. And it didn't work out for them, simply put. But if you're going to test Ladarius Green in the end zone, red zone, he comes in. I think that was the first time that he actually came on the field was for that two-point conversion. Nearly comes down with that ball. Final score, it wouldn't have made too big of a difference. What do we look at, 35-33? The only reason this would have made any big a difference is if the Steelers' defense holds with 48 seconds left to end that game and forces a field goal. Then you have a complaint. But when the Steelers' defense cannot stop Ezekiel Elliott and cannot stop either of those final two drives, how many 3rd and 1s were there? My goodness. Not a whole lot of times that the Cowboys were unsuccessful. Third down, 54%. They were 7 of 13. The Steelers were only 4 of 10. Now, the Steelers were 4 or 5 in the red zone, but the Cowboys were able to score from outside the red zone, so what's it matter? With those two big plays, the one to Ezekiel Elliott and the other one to Dez Bryant, and then the long run by Zeke to end the game. That's just a really tough way to lose, folks. It is. 7 lead changes, though, against Dallas Cowboys team that is now 8-1. And when you look at this, you look around the NFL, the Steelers have lost their four straight games. Their last 4 games, New England Patriots are 7-2. They lost a tight game that also had 7 lead changes yesterday to the Seattle Seahawks, 31-24, and they lost at home. That's right, the Patriots lost at home. I don't think their fan base is going to be too upset, and that's right because they have a good record. I understand that, but the sky is not falling here. I'm trying to maintain some optimism because I'm looking ahead at where the Steelers can turn this around, and traditionally they have turned this around, and I feel they can turn this around. It's very tough. Miami Dolphins lost, yes. Ben was hurt. Ben got hurt. Going to make an excuse? Yeah, sure, why not? This team really has to hinge on the offense. I think we knew coming into this season that the defense has to get lucky and the offense has to put up 30-plus in order to win. And when they don't, they're going to lose games like they did against the Miami Dolphins on the road and the Baltimore Ravens on the road when the offense just doesn't do anything. And surprisingly, the offense wasn't incredibly terrible against the Patriots. That was a back-and-forth game. But you were missing a lot of key players, such as Cam Hayward, such as Ben Roethlisberger. So I'm quite okay with this because when you look up and down the schedule and you start penciling in which games might we lose this year, there's going to be a surprise. There's going to be a surprise win. There's going to be a surprise loss. You're never going to get all of them right. Like I said, if I was a Vegas odds maker and I could get them all right and I was a gambling man, I'd be a rich man. Just not how it works. But let's at least commend the Steelers' offense. I mean, AB shows up, and Ben shows up at Heinz in big games. Ben was 37 of 46, 408 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a 125.4 quarterback rating. AB had 14 catches for 154 yards, including that would-be go-ahead touchdown with under a minute left. He was targeted 18 times. Le'Veon Bell, again, I believe this ties his career high with 9 catches for 77 yards and a TD. Jesse James, Eli Rogers, all clutch, all stepped up. Kobe Hamilton, too. He had the 1 catch for 39 yards. That was big. And Ladarius Green, 3 for 30. You had a couple small contributions from the other pseudo-tight ends, and you really only had the 1 target to Sammy Coates. I'm not sure what's going on with Sammy Coates. Some are thinking maybe he wasn't comfortable on the field, didn't know what he was doing, etc., etc. I'm not going to go down that path, but just disappointing. Oh, and then looking at the Cowboys, of course, Dez Bryant, 6 for 116, and as Zeke had the 2 catches for 95 yards, including the big 83-yard one for a TD. So not to harp on this much more, I think we know that the Steelers' defense is what went wrong here. I think when you put the ball in Ben's hands, AB and Bell and all those guys, they stood up and they did their job, but the defense did not. Sean Davis had more than 1 disappointing penalty and or play in this game. It's going to be some growing pains. We have rookies out there. How will these rookies pan out? We don't know. It's still a learning process, still a growing process. It's very tough. It's very tough to look at that and see whether they can't stop. There were times where they're playing 5 linebackers. They're trying all these different looks and gimmicks to try and get something going, and nothing is sticking this year. And I don't know what will or what won't. I don't know if it's just bad matchups against good teams. That's another thing that we have to take into consideration here. But I'm not going to blame 2-point conversions. I didn't necessarily like going for the second one. I'm not going to lie. People are saying chasing points. They know what they're doing. The first one, hey, you're trying to keep the pedal to the floor. The only thing I don't like about going for all these 2-pointers is that it doesn't give Chris Boswell any reps in a game situation kicking, and then you're going to want him to kick a field goal. And then that really sucks that Eli didn't come down with that to end the half as well, pushing Boswell into like no man's land for an attempt that he almost got. Looked pretty good from where I was sitting. Like I said, I didn't get to see it on TV. Maybe he missed it a little more wide or a little short. But again, you're kicking into that what used to be the open end. It's still tough. The ball's still got to go in the air. It's still a tough area to kick into. And like I said, I've been down on the field before where I've seen that ball whiz around with kickers and punters practicing pregame. And you'd have to see it to believe it, folks, because it really is. It's not some BS thing. You've heard all the players say it. You got to believe me. When you actually see it down on the field, then you'll believe it too. So I'm not going to hold that against Boswell. The 2-point conversions after that, though, you're trying to go up at least a field goal, 3 points on the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are trying to do the same thing at the same time as well. And commend the Steelers for holding them on both of those also, because that could have made the game out of reach maybe. So it works both ways. I guess from what I'm hearing from some people, some of the penalties missed and some of the penalties called. I can't comment on that. I don't even like to comment on that. I'm pretty defensive of officiating, being official in another sport. Sometimes they get it a lot more right than they get it wrong. We never like when referees impact the game. If that's what happened here, I didn't get to see it because I don't have the TV camera angles, and they're definitely not replaying bad calls. They usually don't replay them on TV, let alone inside the stadium. So that's where I'll leave it. And I'll say the sky isn't falling. I know I said that a week ago, but you know what? I had to say I was cautiously optimistic going into this game. I think I still saw a lot of good things, particularly offense, some with the special teams, with the exception of Boswell kicking off and kicking it out of bounds for a penalty and giving Dallas good field position to start. A lot of that, it hinges on this too. There's bigger percentages now that you have touchbacks with the whole 25, starting at the 25 instead of the 20 now. That extra 5 yards is huge. When you get a 15-yard penalty and start at the 40, I believe it was a 15-yard penalty. Sorry, I still have the hangover here of disappointment. But, folks, don't sell this team out. Keep the hope. Keep it up. I hope all the Steelers fans show up. There's still 3 more home games. They're going to have to win some games on the road. And they have the opportunity to still not only make the playoffs, but win this division. If you have any comments, don't forget the hotline, 203-900-4SCU. Look forward to hearing some constructive criticism. I'd like to play them on the air, maybe have a special midweek episode here in order to do so. Until next time, be safe, be good, and I will catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.